I shook my head in disbelief. You'd really do that for me? Of course, she said. That's what friends do. Before I could say another word, she pulled me into a quick, tight hug, warm and genuine, not awkward or forced. For the first time in a long time, I felt included. Standing there with them, laughing, sipping drinks, trying on clothes, I realized something important. This wasn't just a disguise anymore. I was living inside a version of myself I didn't know I'd needed to meet. Thanks, you just made my day, Nadine said with a grin. I'll admit I've got a decent figure, but yours is amazing, Kelly. I laughed, half embarrassed, half flattered. Before I could say anything, she pulled out a pale pink dress that looked way too small for me. This will be perfect, she announced. I stared at it in disbelief. Are you sure that's not made for a doll? Trust me, she said, already unzipping the back. Stretch fabric is a miracle. She handed me a pair of tights and showed me how to roll them up carefully. The dress slid over my head like liquid silk and hugged every contour once she zipped it up. I turned toward the mirror, stunned. The outfit was far bolder than anything I'd ever imagined wearing. It shimmered when I moved, catching the light like a reflection off glass. Wow, I whispered. You look incredible, Nadine said, adjusting the hem. Now you just need the right shoes. She rummaged through her closet and handed me a pair of black strappy heels. Try these, low platform, easy to walk in. I wobbled at first, but she steadied me. Relax your knees. Take smaller steps, she coached. Within minutes, I was walking almost naturally. Gina looked up from the vanity, her face lighting up. Look at you, she cheered, clapping her hands. You're ready for the runway. Their excitement was contagious. The three of us stood together in front of the mirror, laughing, adjusting each other's hair, trading compliments. For a brief moment, I forgot entirely about pretending. We called a cab for the short ride to the club. As we checked our reflections one last time before heading out, I couldn't help thinking how surreal it was. 3 people, 3 stories, one shared energy. And somehow I was one of them. The driver couldn't stop glancing at us in the mirror on the ride over. When we arrived, he even refused payment, simply smiling and wishing us a good night. Inside, the music was loud and the lights glowed like melted neon. The crowd pulsed with energy, laughter, and rhythm. Nadine grabbed my hand. Welcome to Ladies' Night, she shouted over the music. The performers on stage were full of charisma and energy, hyping up the entire room. Gina and Nadine cheered and laughed, completely caught up in the moment. I wasn't sure how to react at first. It was wild and chaotic, but soon I found myself laughing along, swept up in the fun. Nadine leaned close and said, "Now you really look the part." When the show ended, the DJ switched to dance music. Nadine and Gina both pulled me to the floor before I could protest. I don't know how to dance, I yelled. Neither do we, just move, Gina replied. So I did. I copied their steps at first, awkward and uncertain, but then something shifted. The beat took over and I stopped thinking. For the first time in my life, I moved like nobody was watching, free, joyful, and completely present. When we finally collapsed back at our table, laughing and breathless, I noticed the bar had filled up. The atmosphere had shifted from playful to electric. A waitress appeared with 3 drinks and pointed to a nearby group of guys. Compliments of them, she said with a smile. Nadine leaned in and whispered, "Don't look right away or they'll come straight over." I bit back a laugh. Got it. No sudden eye contact. We sat there, giggling like teenagers, whispering secrets over our drinks. Somewhere in between the music, the lights, and the laughter, I realized something. This wasn't just a disguise anymore. For the first time, I was being seen, and I liked it. I looked around the crowded bar, scanning for Paul, but couldn't spot him anywhere. Nadine noticed my distracted glance. "Who are you looking for?" she shouted over the music. "My friend Paul, he said he'd meet us here," I explained. Her eyes sparkled mischievously. "Oh, the mysterious best friend. Tell me more." I laughed. "We've known each other since we were kids. He's kind, patient, honestly the best person I know." She smirked. "So, what's he like in bed?" My jaw dropped and I nearly choked on my drink. Nadine burst out laughing. Relax, I'm kidding. Mostly. We finished our margaritas and went back out to dance. The music was loud and the air was thick with warmth and energy. We danced until our skin glistened under the lights, laughing, spinning, letting the rhythm take over. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't thinking about who I was supposed to be, I was just there. When I finally spotted Paul at the door, I waved, but he didn't recognize me. Not at first. I ran over, the heels clicking under me, and when he finally realized it was me, his eyes went wide in disbelief. "Kelly," he mouthed. I nodded, grinning. "Come on." I grabbed his hand and pulled him onto the dance floor. He was stunned, barely able to keep up as Nadine and Gina joined us. The four of us danced together, and for the first time, I saw Paul smiling freely, not the nervous, awkward grin he usually wore, but a genuine one. Later, when the music quieted, we sat down to rest. Paul told us how great we all looked. Nadine beamed at the compliment. Gina playfully flicked her hair. I just smiled shyly, trying to ignore how flustered I felt. When Nadine and Gina got up to head to the restroom, they turned back, waiting expectantly. It took me a second to realize why. It was my turn to join the group trip. I laughed awkwardly and followed them in. Inside, the room was filled with chatter, mirrors, and perfume. It was the first time I'd ever been in a women's restroom, and oddly enough, it felt like I was trespassing and belonging all at once. As Gina fixed her hair, Nadine leaned toward me and whispered, "So, your friend Paul is really sweet. How can you just be friends with a guy like that?" Gina smirked. "He does seem like the type who'd be loyal. Hard to find that these days." I smiled faintly. "He's just Paul. That's who he is." Gina gave me a thoughtful look, the kind that lingers longer than it should. "Interesting," she murmured. We returned to the table and the night flowed on. Nadine and Paul danced together. Gina and I sat talking. A few men approached us, but Gina politely turned them away. "I'm not really interested in dating anyone right now," she said. "People can be exhausting." "That sounds kind of cold," I said. She looked at me with a half smile. "Do I seem cold to you?" Before I could answer, she grabbed my hand. "Come on, dance with me before you overthink it." We danced again, the kind of carefree dancing that felt like a conversation in motion. I couldn't explain it, but the connection between us felt charged, like we both understood something unspoken. By the time we left the club around 1:30, my feet were aching, but my spirit felt light. We all piled into a cab back to Nadine's. Inside her apartment, the night didn't end, it just changed tempo. The music softened and laughter filled the small space. Nadine poured drinks while Gina leaned back on the couch, her eyes half closed from exhaustion. They gave me a couple of bags of clothes to take home, and Nadine joked, "Just don't forget who made your wardrobe possible when you're famous someday." We all laughed. The mood was warm, easy, until Gina's tone shifted ever so slightly. "Hey, Kelly," she said softly, her eyes locking with mine. "I have one more outfit for you to try. It's something I think would really suit you." She motioned toward the hallway. My pulse quickened. Inside Nadine's bedroom, the lights were low, the air heavy with perfume. Gina handed me a sleek black dress. "Here," she said gently, "try this on." I hesitated. "Now." She nodded. "You'll thank me." I slipped the dress over my shoulders and turned to reach for the zipper, but my hands were shaking slightly. Gina stepped closer. "Let me help," she said quietly. Her voice was calm but intense, carrying an undercurrent I didn't quite understand. I felt her fingers brush against my back, adjusting the zipper with slow precision. There was no rush, just this strange, quiet tension between us. When I finally turned around, she was standing very close, too close. Her eyes searched mine, and for a long moment, neither of us said a word. "Kelly," she said softly, "you really have no idea how strong you are, do you?" The warmth in her tone caught me off guard. I wasn't sure if it was admiration, confusion, or something else entirely. But before I could respond, I took a step back. "Gina," I whispered, I don't think I'm who you think I am." Her eyes flickered surprise, then understanding. She smiled faintly and touched my arm. "You're exactly who you need to be tonight," she said, her voice steady. The moment hung there, fragile, complex, and real. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if she saw through the disguise or straight into the person I was becoming. I can't, I said softly, stepping back. Gina's voice dropped to a whisper. Don't you find me attractive? I met her eyes. I do, I admitted. You're incredible, Gina, but there are things about me you don't know. I just can't. Something flickered in her expression, confusion, maybe disappointment, but she nodded. Okay, she said quietly. I get it. I quickly picked up my dress and hurried to the washroom, heart pounding. The mirror reflected a person I barely recognized, not just in appearance, but in spirit. I wasn't sure if I was running from Gina or from myself. When I came out, Paul was already standing by the door, sensing something was wrong. Gina sat quietly on the couch, her eyes thoughtful but unreadable. Nadine appeared with the bags of clothes and wrapped me in a warm hug. Don't forget these, she said cheerfully. And don't be a stranger. She hugged Paul next, then planted a quick, playful kiss on his cheek. He looked completely stunned, which made Nadine laugh. The walk home was quiet. Paul was animated, talking about how great the night had been, how friendly everyone was, how it felt like things were finally turning around for him. I smiled faintly but said very little. My thoughts were tangled, Gina's eyes, her words, the impossible pull between truth and disguise. By the time we reached the apartment, exhaustion hit me. Paul helped me carry the bags to my room. Need a hand organizing? He offered. I shook my head. Thanks, but I've got it. I changed into my new pajama set, soft, light, comfortable, and washed the makeup from my face. In the mirror, I looked peaceful, but also lost. When I stepped back into the living room, Paul was still awake, half watching television. Have you seen yourself, Kelly? He said, half teasing, half serious. You look great even in pajamas. You really do look like a different person. I rolled my eyes. Yeah, well, tomorrow I'm going back to that old Chinese doctor. I need to figure out how to reverse all this. He nodded, though his expression dimmed a little. I'll come with you, he said. But I'll be honest, part of me doesn't mind the change. Because of it, I got to meet Nadine and Gina. And they actually like me. I smiled faintly. Maybe it's not the disguise they like, Paul. Maybe it's you. We talked for a while, mostly about Nadine. He was smitten and couldn't stop describing how amazing she was. I pretended to listen, but my thoughts kept drifting to Gina, to what almost happened, to what couldn't. I wanted to tell him, but I couldn't. At some point, I must have fallen asleep on the couch, because when I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the blinds, and I wasn't on the couch anymore. I was in my bed. And Paul's arm was around me. I shot upright with a startled scream, pushing him so hard he tumbled onto the floor, hitting the side table on the way down. What are you doing in my bed? I shouted. If you tried anything, I swear,